So you're competing right now, whether you actually realize it or not. You are competing with everyone out there who has the exact same degree, the same certifications, the same years of experience, and frankly, the very same LinkedIn keywords. Yes, I'm talking about synergy and thought leader. And let's be honest, it is exhausting. You're up against offshore talent that can replicate what you do at a fraction of the cost. AI systems that approximate your intellectual work, and just a hyper-connected global market. The source material we're looking at today hits us with a pretty harsh truth right out of the gate. Quote, "If your advantage can be learned, it will be." It is being replicated right now by someone with more time, more capital, or just a lesser need to sleep. Every hard-earned skill you've got is rapidly becoming a commodity.
So, welcome to this explainer. Today, we are going to explore a massive paradigm shift in how you build your career and your economic value. Together, we're going to break down how to step entirely off that track where everyone else is running, and instead, build a structural moat that absolutely nobody can replicate. We are moving completely away from the exhausting hamster wheel of acquiring copyable skills and toward building an uncopyable advantage.
Part 1. The Commodity Trap.
Look, the problem isn't your work ethic. It's that the systems we all trust, our schools, those corporate ladders, they basically taught us a myth. We were told that skills, knowledge, and credentials are safe, durable differentiators. But let's look at the reality here. They are literally just the price of admission. And why is that? Because the timeline to master a domain has totally collapsed. What used to take a decade of isolated trial and error can now be approximated in months, thanks to AI-assisted learning and open-source tools. Think about it. That skill you spent 3 years building, it's a 6-week boot camp now. That complex software you mastered, it's a default feature in a $20 a month app.
And honestly, this is exactly why you feel so burned out. Competing on skills is a race with absolutely no finish line. It's this traditional, force-based competition that is fundamentally designed to drain you. You constantly have to update, refresh, and out-hustle the next person who just downloaded the latest curriculum. One path exhausts you, but the other path, which we are about to explore, actually frees you.
Which brings us to Part 2. Machiavelli's Secret to Power.
To find our way out of this trap, the source material actually pivots back to 16th century Italy. Now, we usually think of Machiavelli as this theorist of ruthless aggression, right? But that is kind of an incomplete reading. What Machiavelli studied most carefully wasn't how to attack, it was how to make oneself impossible to dislodge. As he noted, the prince who holds the high ground holds the battle. Why? Well, not because he attacks more effectively, but because attacking him simply costs way more than the potential gain justifies. He reframed power entirely around defensibility.
Now, notice the really crucial distinction we're making here. Power by force versus power by position. Force is incredibly expensive. It has to be actively sustained. It requires constant energy, and it exhausts the person wielding it, which is exactly like competing on skills. Position, by contrast, is self-maintaining. Once it's established, the person in the right position doesn't need to fight continuously. They just need to stay there, and their advantage actually compounds over time.
There's really no better physical example of this than Venice. Venice wasn't the strongest military power in northern Italy, not even close. But surrounded by its lagoon, it was the most prohibitively expensive to attack. Because it was just too costly for competitors to navigate that literal moat, Venice survived centuries of conflict that destroyed much more powerful but way more exposed rivals. You don't need to be the strongest, you just need to be the least attackable.
Moving to Part 3, your proprietary position. Okay, so how do we take a 16th century geographic moat and translate it into a modern career equivalent? Well, we build a proprietary position. It's an asset built from 3 distinct intersecting pillars. The unrepeatable intersection of where you have been, who trusted you there, and what you can see from that position that no one standing anywhere else could possibly see.
Let's break these down. First up, your lived experience stack. We aren't just talking about your years logged. It's the highly specific, chronological sequence of problems you faced and the transitions you've navigated. Second is contextual trust. This is not about broad internet fame. It's demonstrated reliability within a specific community over time. That is something that simply cannot be bought or shortcut. And third is perspective arbitrage. Because of your specific experiences and that trust you've earned, you can see invisible value, contradictions, and solutions that literally cannot be Googled. That highly specific combination, that is your Venice. It's uncopyable.
So let's run a quick diagnostic on your current career path. If you can be replaced by someone with the exact same job title, you're a commodity. If market research sets your rate instead of you setting it based on your unique value, you're interchangeable. If your advantage decays the second you stop studying, like, software updates, well, that's a subscription, not an asset.
And if you are competing against peers you genuinely respect for the exact same jobs, you're on the wrong terrain entirely. You're fighting with force, not position.
Now you might be wondering, if this is so powerful, why isn't everyone doing it? Well, there are 3 massive traps. The legibility trap means your own unique experience feels perfectly ordinary to you, so you naturally discount it. Then there's the visible path problem. Institutions reward standard, testable skills. They basically give you gold stars for conformity, not uniqueness, which is great if you want to be a cog, but terrible for building a moat. And finally, combination avoidance. When you start merging wildly different experiences, society calls you unfocused. They mistake your brilliantly unique combination of experiences for a lack of direction, just because it doesn't fit neatly into their predefined little boxes.
All right, part 4, the construction blueprint. So we know what the moat is, and we know the traps to dodge. Let's move into some concrete action. Building this defensible moat requires 4 deliberate moves, executed consistently over time. Step 1, excavate your experience stack. Step 2, identify your perspective arbitrage. Step 3, build a contextual trust trail. And Step 4, name the position clearly. Let me guide you systematically through how to actually put these pieces together. Steps 1 and 2 really boil down to one critical question. What is rare in the intersection of your experiences? You have to stop looking at isolated skills. Stop saying things like, I know Python or I am good at marketing. Look at the sequence. Maybe you spent 5 years in public health policy, then 3 years at a health tech startup, and 2 years consulting. Individually, those are common, but that specific sequence, that creates a vantage point where you see policy constraints, technical realities, and hospital dynamics all at the exact same time. The arbitrage lives in that intersection.
Once you find that intersection, you've got to execute Step 3, building the trust trail. Spread trust equals reputation, but concentrated trust equals authority. To build an unassailable moat, you must deeply and consistently invest in one specific context or community. Authority is what happens when you stick around, deliver when things get hard, and build trust that a newcomer simply cannot replicate, no matter how shiny and impressive their resume happens to be.
Which brings us to Step 4. And honestly, this is a massive realization. An uncopyable position that cannot be named is really just a private advantage. A named position is a market force. You have to make your position legible. You must articulate your exact value, the specific problem you solve from your unique vantage point, so incredibly clearly that other people can carry it and repeat it perfectly when you aren't even in the room.
Finally, part 5, the end of competition.
If you actually pull off those 4 moves, you hit this ultimate aspirational end state, a true paradigm shift. When you occupy a category of 1, zero-sum contests just completely dissolve. People who used to be your rivals in a skills-based contest, they structurally become your referral network. Why? Because when they encounter a highly specific problem that lives perfectly in your unique intersection, they literally can't solve it. They have to recommend you. You aren't fighting them anymore. You are occupying a terrain they don't even have access to.
This whole compounding logic of position over force, it is the ultimate economic defense. As the source material beautifully summarizes it, the goal was never to win the race. The goal was to leave the race entirely. Because skills will fade, knowledge is going to commoditize, and tools will absolutely democratize. But your specific intersection of where you've been, who trusts you, and what you can clearly see, that is a fortress.
So I want to leave you with a final thought to really chew on. Look at the position you are building right now in your own life, and ask yourself this question. Who else can do this? If you've built your moat correctly, if you're relying on your lived experience, your contextual trust, and your perspective arbitrage, rather than just a list of copyable skills, there should be only one honest answer: you.